Right, welcome again. Take two. We now have streaming, so welcome once again to the Joint Transportation Board. Thank you once again, Alex, for chairing this committee for the past year, and it's good to be back. So we are on to item 1, apologies for absence. Lauren?
We've got apologies from Mr Marsh and Councillor Naomi Smith, Chair.
Thank you. And any substitute members?
No substitutes this evening, Chair.
Item 3, declaration of interests. Any of those, Lauren?
None in advance, Chair.
Any further declarations?
Sorry, Dan, I should do my bizarre dance around. If any recommendations were to come from the JTB tonight, they would be to me as Cabinet Member at Kent County Council. Therefore, I won't take part in any votes on any recommendations because it would be improper to recommend anything to myself. Thank you.
Noted. Any others? Okay, thank you. So, as we actually have a speaker for item 4, I will do item 5 first, which is about public participation. So we have one public speaker who will be heard on item 4 and also be heard again on item 6. So without further ado, we will move on to item 4, which is minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of March this year. And we would like to invite the speaker, Mr. Martin Head, to the speaking station. Fantastic. I think you have is it a couple of minutes? 3 minutes, even better. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. At the previous JTB meeting on the 19th of March this year, I was a public speaker. My points raised were around the accuracy and therefore legality of KCC traffic orders in Herne Bay, and specifically whether a section of Richmond Street from the High Street to Central Parade was two-way as per physical, or being put back to one-way as per the consolidation TRO made in February this year. Subsequent to that meeting, a consultation process was initiated which included clarifying that the section of Richmond Street was actually staying as two-way rather than the one-way as per the TRO from February, thereby confirming that the February consolidation TRO had been incorrectly raised. However, none of my concerns raised at the meeting have been included in the minutes. Could the chairman please therefore clarify in general terms what information from public speakers should be included in the minutes, and where members of the public are raising specific concerns about the accuracy of KCC traffic orders on agenda items being discussed, should these concerns be included to ensure that the meeting minutes represent a true record? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as we can see from the minutes in page 6, we can see that there are comments from some of the residents who spoke that evening, but they're unnamed. So I would assume, therefore, that it is absolutely reasonable that your comments could also be summarised in one of those bullet points. Lauren, would you agree with that?
Yeah, the comments aren't attributed, as you can see, to any named person. So the minutes should capture a flavour of what the conversation, the debate took place on the night, and any public speakers.
So has anybody else got a comment on that? Neil?
Thank you. I think given the importance of Richmond Street in this whole scheme, and that the working group, when they made their recommendation to have the recent consultation, did refer to looking again at the Richmond Street situation after the summer, I think it is quite crucial to include as much of the reference to issues on Richmond Street in minutes as possible, if that helps. Because I think of all of the issues that there may or may not be left, lots of focus is going to be, even going forward, on the Richmond Street issue. You know, particularly obviously the no entry end, but I think in general. So if that could be included, that would be useful.
Yep, I'm happy to do that. But let's see. Any other comments on this point? Okay, so we actually need.
And have a vote. whether that should be included
Okay.
as a bullet point.
I'm very happy to propose it, and I dare say Councillor Baker will second it. But do we need to propose here the exact wording, or just can we do that after the event?
We can agree a bullet point based on the transcript of last time, the recording of last time.
Okay, so it'll be based. So, okay, fantastic. So what I will propose is that based on listening to the transcript we'll have of the last meeting, we will draw up an extra bullet point that captures per that transcript and include that in the revised minutes, which we can then. Can we take that by email after the event, or do we have to wait for the next JTB to then formally agree those minutes?
I'll take advice on that, Chair.
Okay, and we will email you all with that advice, and then we can take it from there. But so I propose that we do have that bullet point capturing the speaker's comments on the TRO on Richmond Street. Do I have a seconder? Fantastic, thank you, Mark. Do we wish to see if we can take that by general assent? Unanimously agreed. Thank you very much, and thank you to our speaker. Item 6 is the Highway Works programme, and we're being asked to note the update from KCC Highways and Transportation team, which is in front of you.
Sorry, Chair, I just have something for the minutes.
You want to go back to the minutes? Okay, sure.
It's just a bit of error on the annual parking review. So that's item 24, page 5, under Canterbury. 660 should be 40 acres area. It's down here in the table as Roper Road. So it's 650 is Roper Road area, and then 660 should be 40 acres area.
I think we agree. Do we have to have another proposer and seconder? No, because that's just a fact, an accuracy. Okay, thank you for picking that up. And for completeness, has anyone else got any comments on those minutes? Okay, so one more comment on the minutes. Over to you.
Chair, there was some concern regarding the provision of bus service in the rural area, and I'd just like to point out that the bus services have actually reduced even since our last meeting, and it's becoming quite dire. And although we expressed some concern, it's really becoming quite a serious issue in some of the villages around in the rural areas.
Thank you. I mean, that's noted, but do you want a proposal to change the minutes? Perhaps not. No. Okay. Well, thank you, and noted. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, we are officially closing item 4 then. And we'll move on to item 6, Highway Works programme. As I say, we have an update from KCC Highways team, which we're asked to note. We have got one speaker, and then we will open up for discussion. So we've got Martin Heads here again to speak again, up to 3 minutes. So over to yourself.
Thank you. As I'm sure some of the councillors are aware, last week the A299 Thanet Way dual carriageway was completely closed at short notice for several days. This caused an immense amount of pressure on the A2990 Old Thanet Way, as well as an extremely high degree of stress for students sitting their A-level and GCSE exams who were stuck in the inevitable traffic. When the A299 westbound is currently shut, there is a gate on the A291 junction that automatically diverts traffic onto the A2990 Old Thanet Way. In the Highways Works programme, Appendix E, Developer Funded Works section, there is an item regarding the Strode Farm A291 junction changes at Eddington Interchange. This item includes the amended on-slip onto the A299 westbound. Looking at the drawings for this revised interchange, should the A299 be shut again in the future, once the road is complete, it will not be possible for HGVs to make a U-turn at the planned traffic lights, as an HGV turning circle is far greater than the highway width. In light of last week's events, could KCC Highways please urgently clarify what the amended A299 westbound diversion will be for HGVs? how it will be signed and how it will be operated, as without sufficient clarification, there will be gridlock on the A291 and Herne Relief Road / Brookston Road, which will further cause gridlock back onto the old Thanet Way.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll shortly open up for discussion and comments. What I would say is, I think that is a very good point that merits further consideration. So, without prejudicing whatever is discussed on this and everything else in item 6 shortly, I will make sure that we get an answer to that from the highways team, and I'm sure we can direct that to you. I know we've got your contact details, and I'm sure we'll all be interested to read that. I should just say along those lines, we don't have anyone from KCC Highways today, an officer, and if there are any questions kind of outstanding, as it were, we'll make sure that Hazel Walters, who wrote this report, one of her team, will give us a written update. Okay, well, let's hand it over to the floor for comments on that or anything else in this report. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. No, as you say, the professionals aren't here, but you do have a well-meaning amateur in me. So what I will say about that, I think Mr. Head makes a good point there, because putting aside for one moment the Chestfield Tunnel situation, when we had the even longer contraflow recently for the reconstruction work, it was quite clear that there are other issues that do need a bit of a sweep up, a bit of a consideration. And I think this needs to be added to it. In terms of that, I'm referring to things like the impact on Yorklets, for example, which was quite extreme at times. And we're also having discussions about, one of these modern menaces, if I can call it that, because it is a benefit normally, the number of people who rely entirely on in-car technology. So you get in your car, whether you know roads are closed or not, you follow what route you're being told. And they don't necessarily send you the same route as the diversion routes, which have been properly thought out and prepared for. That's incredibly difficult because, of course, that is privately owned sat-nav companies and others that County Council have no influence over, no power to compel. They can try and beg and everything. That is something that actually I don't think that highways legislation has necessarily caught up with the pace of technology. On the roundabout junction at the Eddington interchange, I think absolutely, given the scale of developments there and the potential, whatever else happens for the Thanet Way from time to time to be shut for emergencies, for high winds, for anything else, as has happened in the past, as will happen in the future. I think you need to ensure that as much traffic is kept off of inappropriate routes as possible. It is an ongoing problem, as you'll be aware yourself, in that, vehicles can legally go almost literally wherever they want, but you need to make it clearer where they should be going. So I think as some sort of sweep up into consequences of A299 closures can certainly be included. If that could be in the minutes, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, we'll do. I'm glad to see that although you're not voting on questions for yourself, you are posing questions for yourself and your department. So I think that is a very good one. Any other comments? Councillor Thomas?
I need to make the comment that the old Thanet Way on the Friday, fortunately, the new Thanet Way and the bridge, the contraflow was put in, apart from Herne to Greenhill was closed Friday morning. Had that been closed, I don't know where the traffic would have gone. But when we did have the bridge closure, I was on the road on the Wednesday, I believe, and on the Tuesday, the road was horrendous throughout the Thanet Way and the bends. But for some reason, on the Wednesday, the traffic seemed to be less disruptive, and I just assume everyone just was working from home. Thankfully, I was able to get around to do my work. Thank you. Just a comment.
Absolutely. Any comments on the paper? Okay, so we are simply noting this. We had some comments. Let's see if we're happy to note those comments by general assent. Everyone happy with that? Thank you. Moving on to item 7, active travel update. to note the report of the Senior Programme Manager for Active Travel. Don't have any speakers for this one, so it'll just be an open item for discussion and comments. Any key questions we have, we can forward to Jamie Watson following the meeting and we get a written response. So would anyone like to make any comments on that? And I should say very kindly, Ruth Gowdy from Canterbury City Council's transport team is here today. So where the question relates to a CCC matter, Ruth has kindly attended this evening so that she can give us some insights, but she may or may not be able to answer anything to do with the KCC parts. Any questions? Councillor Baker?
Yeah, sorry to hog the attention, but I think it's worth doing. I'm referenced in this report. You remember we had a thorough discussion at the last meeting regarding the Herne Bay Active Travel meeting. And it was the understanding of this meeting that there would be a consultation and that I, as Cabinet Member, would take a decision on that consultation without reporting back to the JTB first. I believe the general feel of this meeting was that it was important that any decision was taken as far enough ahead of the peak summer season as possible, given what I think the direction of travel was fairly obvious. As is contained in the report, the 2 traffic regulation orders that were consulted upon that restore Central Parade to two-way traffic for its entire length and reinstate parking and remove the associated no left turn, no right turns with the plaza will be removed at the end of this month and that flow will be restored. All the figures are in there. That will be happening. It's just a case of lining up the contractors and that's been done now. That will be happening. So thank you to the board for that, because I think, as we all felt at the last meeting, if we had to come back here to discuss that consultation finding before implementing what was a fairly clear-cut position, we would then get very close to the height of summer. And we were all concerned at the previous meeting, among other things, the impact on tourist traffic, namely coaches, who were struggling to navigate the new system. And of course, as we've seen in other towns across the country, if your coaches can't access where they want to go in your town for one season, they probably won't come back. And that was key to avoid. So thank you for allowing me to shorten that timescale.
Yeah, and likewise, thank you for turning around that decision very quickly after we got the TRO consultation results. Mel?
Thank you. Just on the 2.1, the Canterbury Longport, there's still, it's not a complete report there. It doesn't say the full picture, so I'm not, who wrote that report? Sorry.
I think it was written by Jamie Watson.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, the Canterbury Longport has had quite a lot of issues and, you know, I'm still behind the scenes trying to resolve them. So it doesn't explain everything in there. There's still a few ongoing issues that need to be resolved and it just feels like it's getting sort of kicked down the road and hopefully everyone forget about it. So I kind of would like it to be noted that there needs to be a bit of reference to that, please. And that I need to still continue to have conversations with the Cabinet Member for Highways and the team about things.
Absolutely, it's noted. It's a very short report. It does say ongoing monitoring, small improvements can be made to signage and safety, as well as road markings. But is there anything more specific over and above that you want us to note?
There are a couple more other issues that I'm dealing with. So one is to do with the trees, and another one is to do with the pavement, the fact that there are 2 colours, the issue that no cyclist tends to use, none of the walkers, pedestrians tend to use the actual footpath and actually go down the cycle path. So we need to address that at some point. There's some issues with, some of the safety issues that have come up as well, which is there, but there's a couple of other things on top of that need addressing.
Okay, yeah, we'll note the trees and other points.
If I may, after July the 4th, I will arrange a meeting for Ms Dawkins and the team so we can thrash this out. Although having said that, on current projections, Ms Dawkins may be a little bit busy elsewhere. So we'll see how it goes though, and I'll try and get something in the diary. Thank you.
I'll try and make sure that doesn't happen because I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Any other comments on this paper? Go on, Keith.
Thank you, Chair. Well, firstly, I'd endorse Councillor Watkins' remarks about the Longport scheme, which I don't know how much it cost. Someone here probably knows, but it seems to be a complete waste of money. I've never seen a cyclist using the designated cycle path. But my main point is about active travel generally, and a sort of just a general comment, not relating to the paper that's been presented, but the number of overgrown pavements where there's overhanging branches and vegetation throughout the local area, in urban areas, in rural areas, in semi-rural areas, wherever there's a pavement. Many of them are overgrown significantly, which would cause extreme danger for pedestrians because they can't walk along the pavement and therefore will be walking in the road. And I've just a general point about maintenance of pavements so that they are passable by pedestrians, so that they can, if we're trying to encourage active travel, I would have thought this is one of the most basic things which we need to address, that all the existing footpaths, never mind making improvements, all the existing footpaths should be accessible at all times so that we encourage active travel. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we'd all agree with that. Possibly, as that's not, well, it's sort of, I suppose the pavement bit's to do with active travel, but we could just put that in item 10, any other business, just so we can note those comments and they get picked up by the cabinet member who's 2 meters behind you, but officers as well. Any other comments on this paper? Okay. Still need to do the general assent bit, don't I? Do we take the comments and note the report by general assent? Thought we might. Thank you. Well, date of the next meeting, 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 22nd of October. Oh, sorry, I've missed item 8. So let's go back to item 8. Monitoring of previous decisions. Sorry, there is a paper to note there. That's what happens at the turn of a page, isn't it? So yeah, let's cover that. Any comments on the monitoring paper, item 8? General assent? Very good, thank you. I've done item 9. Item 10, any other urgent business to be dealt with in public? Oh, here we go. We were going to set a new record and it's been ruined. Okay, Councillor Sol.
Thank you, Chair. Can I use this opportunity to raise the issue of the 13-week closure of the A257? This is an absolute disaster when this is going to happen. It's been 3 weeks now since I first raised this with KCC and was told that discussions would happen with developers to see if anything could, with the contractors, to see if there could be any changes to this. I've heard nothing back since. We don't know what Stagecoach are doing about running the buses. We're going to see so much traffic going through the villages, going through Bigsbourne, Patricksbourne, out to Fordwich. The diversion route would take someone from Littlebourne all the way back to Wingham, then on the road to past Addisham, coming back on the A2 to get into Canterbury. No one is going to do that. They are going to use the back roads. They go all sorts of things. It's going to be absolute chaos. It seems unbelievable that KCC would have, if like, rubber stamped this 13-week closure without getting into those discussions. And if discussions are available, if it's possible to have discussions now, they should have had them in the first place, rather than just rolling over to a contractor who says, I need to close this road for 13 weeks. So can we urgently find out what has happened with those discussions, what is going on, because to close that road for that length of time, it's, as I say, it's just going to be chaos. I cannot see how on earth it can work.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any more comments on that particular point? Okay, go on, Paul.
Yeah, I just want to strongly support Councillor Sol's comments. This closure is right in the heart of my ward, in Barton Ward. I had hoped there could be some one-way traffic arrangements through Littlebourne Road, but much like Councillor Soul says, this has a huge impact on bus users, and particularly the large number of bus passengers who use who go to the several schools in Barton Ward. We saw last week when there was a burst water main in New Dover Road, just how much chaos is caused on the roads in Canterbury when a key artery is shut. I would strongly support, I would like to hear more from KCC on whether these plans can be revisited, and I appreciate it's at quite a late stage, but we do need to certainly look at whether these plans can be revisited, but certainly look at how these plans are communicated, because as I say, I'm particularly concerned on about the impact on bus passengers who don't have an awful lot of choice, and also to a lesser extent, this does have an impact on our primary local bus operator, and they will face increased costs. And while there's not a huge amount of sympathy for a bus operator for lots of reasons, they do have increased costs, and that then possibly has an impact on passengers and their the sort of level of service they can provide. So I would just like to sort of hear from our cabinet member who's present and from officers about what might be done, because I've not really been communicated with very well on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we turn to the cabinet member, if he does want to make a comment, over to Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, it still hurts a bit. I actually, Councillor Prentice slightly stole my thunder there, because I was going to talk about the impact on bus services as well, and I think that's something that's occupied my inbox, as well as the general malaise at the length of this closure and indeed other closures. And I was wondering if we could perhaps look at this item in the round and perhaps invite Stagecoach to come to this committee in the next opportunity. I know from conversations that we have with them quite openly that it is a massive impact on their operations, particularly a closure of this size. And I also think, given the point that Mr. Atkinson raised earlier on, that if we have this impact on bus passengers for this long, that will have a knock-on effect on bus usage, which then further affects Stagecoach's decision on where to run services, and particularly in the rural area. Will we see this effect being taken into account on when decisions are made about bus services in the future? So I think there's probably a case for looking at this as the wider impact of this and other closures in the district. I know it's something that the County Council struggles with as well, and I think it would be useful to use this forum to get all of the parties involved to discuss it, and maybe see if we can actually jointly come together with a resolution to these, that we can suggest some action to prevent this level of impact on the district.
Yes, noted. I think it's a good topic for further discussion, and we can feed it into the mix to ourselves at the next agenda meeting following the theme of the night. Does anyone else want to comment on that point? Councillor Baker.
I think on the short-term 257 upcoming closure, it would be useful perhaps for you to convey some of the thoughts that have been shared tonight urgently, to try and get feedback on that, to try and offer some democratic lubrication of the wheels of government, as it were. On the wider issue, road closures are an absolute bugbear. Chairman and myself were in a meeting yesterday, actually, when we discussed the whole issue of road closures in quite some detail over quite a lengthy period. I think that would be a very useful discussion to have within this forum, just to almost make clear what we can do as Highways Authority in terms of road closures, more importantly, what we can't do, and actually, frankly, what the utility companies can do in their rather large powers under the New Streets and Roadworks Act 91. And I think we need to get that out there. So I think on the specific case that Mr. Soul and Mr. Prentice have raised, absolutely, yeah, push that along to get the answer. On the wider case of road closures, that would be very good to have here. And actually, I think going back to what we said at the start under the minutes, bringing Stagecoach in for that could be useful, but actually bringing Stagecoach in more generally having that bus discussion would be a useful future item as well, because it's very different. You know, I mean, let's be fair. Some of us are quite fortunate to live in parts of this district where the bus service is very good. Some haven't seen a bus in years, and there very much is a deficit between the haves and the have-nots in terms of public transport provision. So I think it's good to actually get all those stories out there. And dare I say, hear from Stagecoach about what their future plans are. Obviously, they're not going to release anything commercially sensitive, but the general thrust of their thoughts, I think, could be useful. And for us to give a chance on behalf of our residents to say what we would like to see in our areas, both, you know, the individual villages and routes, but also the overall bus network in this district and connected beyond. I think those could be two very good items. Thank you.
Yeah, noted. And again, actually, that's been on our agenda setting previously. So we've made a note of that. It would be interesting discussion. As you say, it's a bit of a spoiler alert, but obviously many of the decisions surrounding highway closures are outside of our control, but there, as always, are maybe some things we can do to influence it. So a big good discussion. Mel, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, just to add to that, and thank you, Mike, for bringing it up. It's also, it's in my division as well, so affecting people in my division. So yeah, this happened a while ago in Wincheap, something very similar, where there was a road closure. Can you remember that? And it wasn't really very thought out, and suddenly there was loads and loads of issues. So it is an ongoing feature that road closures are put in, and no one seems to come down and actually test them out. I mean, we could have a job opportunity there. The road closure tester project officer or something who drives all the different cars and modes of transport and tries them all out in different ways. But I mean, that sounds like a quite good option, really, because no one does actually seem to test whether they're going to actually work in practice. Practically, they do it all on Google Maps or something, and then that's it, done. So we kind of need a little bit more of input, I think. So yeah, could we make a recommendation as Canterbury JTB that we want to sort of elevate this issue up the chain? I know we have the cabinet member here anyway, but to put it on the agenda a bit higher.
I happen to know it's as high as it can go, but there's no harm in us noting that. And I think by having this discussion, we have noted it. So done.
Could you formally take it to Neil, please?
Formally, I take this item to thee, Neil Baker.
And if there was some way that KCC Highways, the castle of KCC Highways, can do something to make this issue a bit better.
If I may, Chair, I would just say that I think this could form part of that future report. Diversion routes, as far as they can be, are driven when there are concerns. But of course, you've got to realise that, you know, there's not an infinite number of staff. And if you're driving a diversion route, which could be quite lengthy, to do a proper formal job, you have to drive it in both directions, which could take the best part of a day in some circumstances for large diversion routes, of course. But I think it does happen. There are the new 4 streetworks inspectors that were recruited recently. Clearly, that's only 4 for the county, but they've had some good findings so far. The intent is they'll be self-financing because they'll be issuing fines when, you know, diversions aren't being complied to, closures aren't being complied to, you know, conditions of permits aren't being adhered to, and that funding will go back into the pot to recruit more of them. So it is being worked on, but of course it is a large tanker to turn around. And I think there are many frustrations, as this future report will bear out. I mean, for example, sometimes having a full road closure can be better than working under traffic lights if it means getting the job done in under half the time. So, you know, all I would say is trust me when I say there are teams of people valiantly fighting to coordinate things. It doesn't help when 30 to 35% of all utility work in this county is done under emergency powers, which means the utility companies can close the road and only have to tell us within a couple of hours. So it's a difficult job when you know the work's happening. One of the best examples locally, I would suggest, sometimes the Highways Authority, we're the only ones left who can actually move our work. And a good but bad example would be the zebra crossing plan for outside Archbishop School, which should have been in place for the start of this academic year, When it was going to go in, we had the problems with the windshield gas and everything like that. So it was the one road really left open. It got delayed, then the wet season, and now it's not going to make the academic year. That shows the scale of the amount of work going on. And sometimes the only decisions you can make are pretty horrific ones. But that will come out in a report, and actually would be useful to have this wider discussion, because of course then we can let people know what the reasons are, all the way down to things like, you know, sometimes roads are closed for 3 days after the work's finished. It's because of concrete settings. I can point to some places around Canterbury where they try to rush the roads open too quickly, and now they're sunken because they didn't. And as a chap said to me, but I put concrete down in my garden and I didn't have to wait 3 days. Well, you put a barbecue on top of it. You didn't put 2,000 HGVs over it. So all of this sort of stuff, I think, needs bringing out in a report. It could be a very good discussion. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Neil, your constructive answer.
Let's try and wrap up this item if we may. Paul?
It was just a quick suggestion and a specific one that Matthew Arnold from Stagecoach is invited to these meetings to talk specifically about the impact of the sorts of road closures we've talked about, not just the A257, but also emergency road closures like the one that was at Wincheap. And that he's invited specifically to talk about the impact on bus passengers because, as I said, you know, car drivers, motorists can find a way. They can always find a way. Bus passengers, it's much more awkward, and there is an impact there that I think this committee needs to hear as a whole. Thank you.
Yeah, completely agree. And as I say, we've got that as an agenda-setting item, and we will make sure, if the invite is accepted, that Stagecoach are given a strong steer as to what we'd like them to talk on. That could be a part of it.
Was that there used to be a quality bus partnership which was disbanded a couple of years ago and replaced with a number of bus liaison meetings, and the issue of roadworks and bus punctuality and the effect of that is brought up at a regular basis. So Stagecoach are involved at that level with Kent. I don't know that there's that many councillors who sit on those meetings. There's a councillor sits on the most sort of low-level Canterbury bus forum meetings, but as they go kind of higher up the chain, Stagecoach do attend, and they make their views well heard to Kent County Council. Thanks, Chairman.
So, are there any other urgent items? Okay, there are none. And as we have no item 11 or 12, then we are done in very swift time. So it's a lovely evening. Everyone can go and enjoy the substantial part of it that is still left. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and see you in October. Good night.